When shopping for lighting upgrades, you're going to run into 3 different terms that brands use to try and tell you how bright their product is: Lumen, Lux, or Candela. In this video, I'm going to try to break it down, help you understand what those 3 terms mean, and how you should use them when choosing your next lighting upgrade. So first, let's talk about lumens. Lumen is a term that most people know about, but in terms of comparing different lighting products, it might be the worst completely. Let's talk about how you measure lumen on something like an LED headlight bulb. It really focuses on the light source, not how the bulb itself interacts with the optics on a headlight, or how an LED chip works in a projector headlight assembly, or how the LEDs work in an off-road light. If I turn this on, you get an idea. If I could measure all of the brightness coming off of this bulb, that's going to be the lumen measurement. It doesn't matter if we're talking LED, HID, or halogen, that light source creates a certain amount of lumen. Now, what we really care about is what happens when I put it into the assembly featuring the optics. In this case, the optics are all of those mirrors down in the reflector that harness the lumen light output from the bulb and create Candela and Lux. In this case, we've seen that different lumen rating bulbs in the same headlight have different usable light. So go check out that video where we test a bunch of different bulbs in the same headlight, and you're going to see how lumen doesn't really matter. We've seen high lumen bulbs have a lower lux, and lower lumen bulbs have a higher lux, because it's not about the light source or the intensity of the bulb itself, it's about the relationship between the light source and the optics. Same thing goes for halogen. We're talking about all of the light it makes and what happens to all of that light that's scattered everywhere when you put it in optics. Now, optics aren't just these reflectors in a headlight assembly. If I could dissect this aftermarket LED projector headlight from Morimoto, you're going to find an LED chip behind each of these projectors. That LED chip has a lumen rating also, but it's a completely different level of brightness characteristic once that LED chip is mounted to a board, put behind a projector, and shown forward in front of your vehicle. That's why we also measure lux. The other thing is the term lumen has evolved into this dirty, deceitful marketing term that's total BS. One person says their bulb is 3,000, and the next one says 4,000, the next one says 10,000. I've even seen people say that their LED bulbs are 22,000 lumens, which is absolutely ridiculous. The absolute most that you'll see out of a bulb, theoretical or raw, is like 4,000 lumens. So when people are saying, I got 6, 8, 10, 12, 100,000 lumen bulbs, they're straight up lying to you. So comparing the lumen ratings between 2 different products is kind of like bragging that you have $10 million in Monopoly money. That's great if you're playing the game, but kind of useless in real life. Same thing goes with lumen on products without measurements like Lux and Candela. So next, let's talk about Lux. Lux is a term that we use to help people understand real, actual, measurable brightness on a product installed on their vehicle at a certain distance in front of them. This is a great way to help you understand how much brighter or less bright something is than what you have now. The problem is you can't really compare test number 1 to test number 2 from different places, in different settings, using different tools, because it's a measurement based on distance and relative brightness. If you have a different room with different colored walls that reflect more, or more ambient light, or slightly different distance, or a different meter that may not be calibrated, or a different voltage supply that's more or less than what the original test in, your readings are going to be off. And so the only way to have comparable lux readings is if it's different products taken in the same laboratory environment. In most automotive aftermarket applications, you don't have that, so we use it to demonstrate percent change. The way we do lux testing is we'll take the original light source and the original assembly, and we will measure a control, and then we'll swap out the light source for different products, maybe different LED bulbs, different halogen bulbs, different HIDs, or even completely different assemblies. As long as we're at the exact same spot in a controlled environment, we can demonstrate a change in lux and help you evaluate which one is brighter or not. The problem with lux, though, is that it only measures a single point. We use a digital lux meter like these that when turned on and had a light shine to them, they'll actually tell us the lux reading. You have this style, and you have this style that you can move around better, and both of them work the same way. Let me show you. We have the light mounted on the table, and with each test, we're gonna leave it exactly in the same spot, and we're gonna measure in exactly the same spot. In this case, we're gonna take our digital lux meter and find the brightest point of the hot spot of the light. This is gonna give us peak intensity and help you understand how much brighter a product could be compared to the one that we're testing. But look what happens to the reading when I move the meter just a little bit closer to the light source. It changes dramatically. Now think about if somebody else is doing the same test and they didn't have it set up exactly the way that we do. That's why it's really hard to compare lux. Lux is really only useful in this comparison way. We can see how much something changes in lux, but it's not useful to compare against somebody else's test because of all the different variables. But the problem with testing lux in this way is it only gives you a single snapshot. Ideally, you would get lux across different points in the beam pattern, not just the single brightest, but how does it change on the edges? How does it change on the top? How does it change on the bottom? We can use these types of lux readings to show you the change in a product that you have, but to really compare two different products on paper, we need to talk about Candela. The interesting thing about lux is when we take the reading, we're actually reading the level of Candela at that spot. So to wrap it up, the bulb has lumen, we put it in a headlight, and what we can measure is the lux. That's the important part. But what about Candela? When we're measuring lux, the thing that we're measuring is the Candela at a certain place. So take a minute to wrap your head around that. When we're measuring lux, we're measuring Candela, but only one little snapshot. To really understand the entire Candela rating, that's where the ratings on paper come in. You look at a product on the website and it says this much Candela or this much Candela. That is the number that you should be comparing products against if all you care about is brightness. There's also matters of beam pattern, quality, value, things like that. But if you're just looking for maximum brightness, Candela is really the best apples to apples comparison that you'll ever find. If you want to know which product has the absolute most peak intensity in your application, let's look at maximum lux. But if you want to get a better snapshot overall, just look at the greater Candela number. If we're talking in terms of an LED pod light like the Morimoto 4-banger, it goes like this. The LED chips inside each have their own lumen rating. You stack them together, you put them behind the optic, but where you measure it at a certain point in space is the lux. But all of the light that it produces is the Candela. The Candela doesn't change if I'm this close, across the room, or completely maxing out the brightness across a field. The Candela is the total light that it can produce. Next time you're on those internet forums and somebody says, hey, I got my 30,000 lumen LED bulbs, you can tell them that you're smarter and that you know that doesn't matter. Bust out your lux meter or look up Candela ratings on the internet. And what you're going to find here at Headlight Revolution is we actually take the time to get the vehicle in, we do the testing, we figure out what works, and we try to show you exactly what you should expect when you buy a certain product. That way you're not just buying things blindly and getting surprised when they don't work how you thought they should. We actually do the testing for you. So if you see anything on the website with that HR tested stamp of approval, you know that we've actually got the product in, we've tested it, and you can rest assured that it's the best thing for your vehicle. It's what I would put on my car or my truck, and it's what you can trust with your next project. If you want to see what fits your vehicle for LED headlights, fog lights, off-road lights, any type of lighting upgrade you can think of, go to headlightrevolution.com, put in your year, make, and model on the homepage, and you'll see everything we sell for your vehicle.